Welcome to the Critical Few Actions to Improve Your Business podcast. I'm John Downs and I'm here to help you cut through the overwhelm and prioritise what matters most to improve your business. Let's get started and discover the critical few actions that have the biggest impact. Today, I'm delighted to introduce you to our next Meet the Leader interviewee, Tom Stray. Tom's the CEO of Dentalife, a business founded by his father over 25 years ago to make dental materials and infection control products. Tom was in one of my first CEO masterclasses back in 2020, and over the time that I've known him, he's continued to impress me as a decisive, considered, and unflappable CEO of a business with over 50 staff in Melbourne and in Thailand. Tom, welcome.
Thanks, John. It's good to be here.
So, Tom, tell me a little bit about the types of products that you guys make.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, it's dental materials and infection control products. So what that sort of, entails is the liquids, pastes and gels that dentists use in their day-to-day procedures, which is not always the most exciting experience, but we produce them, someone has to make them, and then the infection control products that go with that as well to keep the surgery safe, and they then extend on into the broader medical market as well.
Yeah. Not always the most fun stuff to use, but pretty essential.
Yes.
Now, our masterclass started a few months before COVID kicked in, and we were meeting face-to-face. We'd interviewed all the members of our advisory board, and then we did a detailed analysis of the 75 aspects of our business operations using the organisation performance and value framework. We challenged ourselves to test whether we had the right people on the bus and whether our EBIT performance was reasonable for the risks that we were taking. And we'd gotten deep into understanding our customers' mindset and the impacts that has on our customer journey. Everything was going just as planned. And then one Friday night, I got a phone call saying COVID actually was real and that we had to pivot to delivering Monday's class of 21 participants onto Zoom, which was pretty new to me. And so I spent the weekend hosting masterclasses to my daughter's teddy bears as participants, using all the smartphones and laptops you find lying around in kitchen drawers. And that was my crash course in facilitating the new COVID remote experience. For me, that was a challenge, but that was nothing compared to what hit Tom. Tom, tell me what actually happened to you.
Well, I think everyone had their own experiences through COVID, and I think we can say we were one of the fortunate ones in that we got busy, but to say we got busy was probably a bit of an understatement. It was a bit chaotic, but the first couple of months of COVID, or when we knew of COVID, as we're a local manufacturer and as we make infection control products, was pretty nice for us. We had, I think, the first time COVID was mentioned, we had our biggest month, and then that went into another really good month, and then as you mentioned, it got really real, and borders started to shut, and we got told that the dentistry was going to shut down, just only was going to be sort of critical surgery. And that was the first probably real alarm bells for us, where we thought, well, that's 98% of our business. What happens here, and what does that look like for us? So we had some crisis meetings then, and to try and work out what that looked like. And as you mentioned, the CEO masterclass, and that was certainly a godsend for me, because I had someone to talk to and someone to lean on to try and work through these processes. But I guess fortunately it did pick up after that. Our distributors expand into the medical market. Dentistry was still ticking over, and infection control products were needed. So it went gangbusters, I guess, through then, and we orders started flooding in, and that all was fantastic until we then realised that, hang on, we can't get supplies, and we can't work. All our normal supply chains were disrupted. Everyone was getting all sorts of things. That's when second lot of panic set in, was that yes, we've got orders, but we can't actually fulfill them now. So I think that was the real pain point for us, was the stock management at that stage, and then the finance side of things. And I think where we were sitting was, we were a fairly small business. We had about 6 staff at that stage. We were sort of ticking over nicely. We had a nice little customer base, and we were sort of thinking about, well, we had a bit of a 5-year plan to sort of maybe get to 10 staff and grow a little bit, expand a few different markets, bring on a few new products. And I think we hit that 5-year mark in about 6 months in, and we had about 12 staff at that stage as well. So things just went sort of from, it just exponentially bigger and more panic, I think. And we had then Thailand as well that had the similar issues where dentistry was shutting down, but the general public there was wanting infection control products. So we went from supplying dental distributors to supplying pharmacies and trying to build those relationships and work through that. And I think one of the things we did early on that was beneficial was made a pretty big decision to say, well, we're not going to supply anyone outside our current customer base unless we had the stock, which we never did. So that wasn't too much of a concern. But yeah, it was just a very challenging time, and it was uncharted territory to us. It was something that we'd never gone through. I'd been in the role running a very small manufacturing business that I knew every part of it. I could pretty much from my office could see everyone, to trying to talk to suppliers that we hadn't worked with before, to try and speak to banks and with conversations that were way over my head to try and, it was just it was a challenging time.
Yeah. And you're also in an environment which has got pretty strong regulations around quality control and the security of your products, the sterility of your products. And some of them are hazardous materials or flammable materials. And you had a slight problem with the size of your production capacity in Melbourne as well.
Yes, that was a challenge. So we had 300 square metres of manufacturing space, which we probably needed about 10 times that. But we managed to bring in another production tank. So we doubled our capacity, which still wasn't enough. So we then needed to split our shifts, which we'd never done before. So we were managing that process, getting a call from the government saying that you're manufacturing, so you need to downgrade your staff by 30%, and then getting a call from another arm of the government saying you've got critical materials, we need you to ramp up capacity and supply it all to us. Trying to work out who pulls those strings and who's the one that we listen to. So that was a challenge, but there was, like, our team built so much resilience in through that stage. We were fortunate, I guess, that a lot of our staff started in production and worked through to compounding and then different areas. So we were all producing product. I think we had I think early on in the quarantine period when it was 2 weeks, we had both our compounders go down with COVID. So I was the chief compounder for a fortnight, which made everyone a bit nervous, I think. So we worked through that. But we're in that process. We also moved factories, and that was another challenge for us, given that we didn't know if this was going to fall off a cliff in 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, what was going to happen, but we needed more space. So we ended up biting the bullet and getting a bigger factory, which was in Croydon, just down the road. Fortunately, it was a factory. Well, I think we looked at about 10 factories, and none of them had the power capacity that we needed. They were all warehousing, so you could plug a forklift in and a few lights, and that was about it, which wasn't going to cut it either. So we then looked at how quickly you could ramp up power capacity of a factory, which you can't do that very quickly. I found out pretty early on. But then we did come across a factory that seemed right, that was a furniture manufacturing facility, so it had the power ratings, but it was just a greenfield site. We had to seal the floor, we had to seal the walls. Fortunately, there was a forklift rental place around the corner. We got a big scissor lift, and Marek, our trusty warehouse guy, was up there one weekend scrubbing the roofs because all the dust and all the wood chips and stuff were in the roof. So we had to clean all that down and vacuum that down. We had to seal the roof. We then set up our production lines, but as you mentioned, the regulations, we couldn't manufacture. We couldn't manufacture all our medical devices in that facility. So we had to keep producing or compounding our products in our registered facility, fill them into IBCs, and just keep shipping them across. So we ended up running about 3 shifts then, and I think I pulled the short straw and did the night shift. And so we were compounding all the products, sending it over in IBCs, and then filling it. So our staff were driving back and forth. And it was just it was suck and see, I guess. And we tried some things that didn't work. We tried some things that they worked. But it did, as you mentioned, it did build in a lot of resilience in our team, and a lot of staff that got huge opportunity through there just because we had no one else. And I think we've got a really good story with our general manager. So Judith had started with us probably 3 months before COVID as a graduate, and she was going to eventually, we had a bit of an 18-month plan that she was going to take over running our production in our facility there. And Lachlan, who's my cousin, who was our overseeing production, he was going to have a transition into the sales and marketing side of the business. And 3 months after that plan was formulated, COVID hit, and Judith ended up setting up the greenfield site for us. Lachlan ended up taking over our sales and marketing and managing our customers' demand, and they absolutely got a crash course through that. And Judith went from strength to strength in that. And for her to put her hand up then, and she'd never done it before, she didn't know what to do, but for her to back herself into to take on that challenge and just find a way to do it and get the right people around her was really inspiring, really incredible. And Lachlan did the same thing with the sales and marketing. We had challenges. We couldn't get supply. We had to pivot and change the product for packaging and those sort of things. And he just managed that process, managed it with the customers, and just did it through just sheer willpower and just asking questions and trialing things. And we were fortunate that our customers understood that we were giving people opportunity to do that, but they absolutely nailed it. And I think they probably got 15 years experience in 15 months.
Yeah, I remember that experience well. I think we were also catching up at least once a week on the phone as I was driving back from Warrandyte. And it was stressful, but also somewhat hilarious to sort of see what COVID was throwing at you in the ways that it wasn't throwing the curveballs at so many other clients and businesses at the time.
Yeah, we do feel lucky that we had that opportunity. And I think we were talking earlier about we had some quite awful smelling sanitizer that came through, and we all had to manage that with the customers and just those challenges that you wouldn't normally face. We faced them, and our customer base were incredible to work with us and understood that we were under the pump. We were doing what we could to work through these things. But it was look back and now it was a bit of fun.
Well, I sort of think that in some ways, for a lot of people, COVID was actually a blessing, not the illness and the mortality that resulted from it, but actually from the point of view that it actually helped us become more flexible and much more resilient businesses, to look very carefully at our supply chain, to look very carefully at how we plan our business and actually measure and monitor it, to get really smart about how we manage our cash flow, because cash flow, I think, was one of the biggest challenges for all businesses. And that was the reason why so much government support was provided, but it was only provided to some people and not others, and so on and so forth. So, Tom, how did all of that work out for you?
Well, I think we can sit back now, sort of 5 years later, and say that we are in a better position now where the business is much stronger. We've built much better relationships with our customers. I think we built up probably 10, 15 years of goodwill through that time. We were able to support our customers a lot, which was good. We, as I said, the learnings that I went through, but also our staff went through, have built in that resilience and that experience that's held us in really good stead. I think challenges that pop up now don't quite seem as challenging as they otherwise would had we not been through that. So that's been beneficial. But I think we sit now and we're really excited about the next stage of growth for the business. I think we rode the wave, we grew, we had all the teething problems that come with that, and all the challenges. And I think we've settled now over that, and we're sort of ready for our next stage of growth now, which is really exciting. And the same thing in Thailand. I think that threw up a lot of different challenges, but the staff over there were incredible. All the staff, all our key staff through that period are still with us and have learned amazing lessons. And I think are just in such a better position to take the business forward and at a bigger size as well.
So just on that, I mean, we've just talked about how things impacted you in Melbourne and the move to a new factory, upscaling, setting up a new production facility with a highly experienced, or at least 3 months graduate, and your cousin moving out of production and into sales. What was the impact actually in Thailand? Because that would have been quite different, I suspect, or was it very much the same?
It was different in that we aren't eligible for any government support over there, so it all had to be us. So that was probably added a level of complexity. And Dad was also over there. He moved over there full time during COVID. I think one of the reasons that we found out later was because the golf courses stayed open, so that certainly influenced his decision, I think. But but he went over there, and he is a phenomenally knowledgeable person around the technologies, and his understanding of production, his ability to develop products, and his regulatory knowledge is second to none. And the business wouldn't have been able to grow a manufacturing business without the knowledge that he has and that he's imparted onto the staff. So him being there, I think, certainly meant that the running of the facility was always going to be fine. He could jump in wherever needed, which was amazing. But I think it was more the broader market. So one of the benefits we had in Thailand is our medical distributor in Thailand, or dental distributor, is DKSH, who have in so many different retail areas as well. So because the infection control products were so needed, they were able to get it to where the opportunities were as well. So certainly the sales opportunities weren't an issue, but getting stock was a challenge. And for anyone who's dealt with customs in Thailand, it's a challenge. And so trying to get new suppliers and find product quickly, while we could do that, to get it through customs and get them registered quickly was another challenge. So we were shipping things back and forth. I never thought that I would put a container of wipes material on a plane, but we did that at one stage to get stuff over there, and that was a frighteningly expensive experience. But we needed to keep the supply there. We do manufacture in two unique areas, Australia and Thailand, for what we do. So with the benefit we had was there wasn't any competitors that were doing the same thing in the market. So for us, we thought if we can keep this consistency of supply through this period, it's certainly going to hold us in good stead going forward, and that was the case. But yeah, I think being a small private business and knowing our staff really well and being able to speak to them, driving to work, driving back from work to understand how they're going as well, and yeah, it brought us all closer together, but it certainly made it manageable.
So you've gone from 5 to 50 staff over 5 years and got a new production facility, which is dramatically different from the one that you had. Where's the business at now?
Well, we actually moved facilities in Thailand through that time as well. I forgot to mention that. That was a similar challenge. But I think that the business is in a much better spot. But we've got so many key staff now that have so much more experience in their roles. So I think the ability to delegate the day-to-day workload and the challenges and the opportunities going forward has meant that we could do things that I probably never really thought we were going to be able to do in a short period of time, and wasn't in the 5-year plan that got knocked over in 6 months anyway. So that's been good, and I guess we're bigger now, so we've been able to bring on some more senior staff as well. So in Australia, we've got a new sales and marketing manager. So kick my cousin out, he's now managing our R&D facility and having an intricate understanding of production, having an understanding of sales and marketing, and to oversee our products now. He's sort of added another element to the business that's really strong. And we've got Josephine, who's come in to oversee our sales and marketing, who's a very knowledgeable, experienced person in the dental industry. So that's added a skill set that we didn't have before as well. And then we've now got Karen, who's on the road for us, and she comes with a wealth of experience as well and knowledge. So before, where it was a lot reliant on, I guess, our knowledge, Dad's and my knowledge, I guess, we've now got people who are so much better than us in all the other areas of the business that just meant that we can be so much stronger, and the ability to delegate things and work through that is, I think we're a bit more of a serious business now, whereas before it was a genuine small family business. So, and the same thing has happened in Thailand. We've just got some more senior people on to be able to, that can absorb Dad's knowledge as well of the technical side of things, that was always going to be the challenge, was being able to get the knowledge out of his head into a lot of people. I was never going to be able to manage all his knowledge. So to be able to get a number of people that can do that now and just adds so much strength to the business and support to our customer base as well.
And I guess you've also now had the benefit of actually upscaling not only your factories, but specifically your production capacity, the sophistication of the equipment that you've got in place, and that new medical wipes production line, which just looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, we got our first robot 2 years ago, which was pretty exciting. That was pretty cool. But again, I guess another story through COVID for us was we had Scott, who came into production for us through an agency. He's an engineer, he's from Ireland, and he was just doing a bit of bits and pieces of production for us. He ended up needing to take on more responsibility. We've now sponsored him to stay out here, and he's now a head engineer. So that would never have happened had it not been for COVID as well. But he's now overseeing our, I guess, transformation of our production, the upskilling of our equipment. And one of the challenges we've got, I think, being in a small market, so our Australian facility supplies Australia and New Zealand, our Thailand facility supplies Asia, and we've done that on purpose because we think keeping a small, flexible facilities adds an element that our competitors don't have. But the challenge in that is we can't just get big clunky machines that just churn out product. We've got to keep them quite nimble. So to automate smaller machines is a bit of a challenge, and for the quantities we need, that adds a bit of a level of challenge. But Scott's working through that and doing a huge job there. But yeah, our wet wipes machine, the medical wipes, we're super excited about that. So we're the only Australian manufacturer of medical grade or class 2B, they're called medical disinfectants, wipes. So that's something that we're really proud of, and we're certainly working to ramp that up. And that came on the back of COVID and the government wanting to shore up supply chains. And that was one of the materials that obviously when COVID hit and the demand was there, I think Australia is often a bit of an afterthought for Europe and American manufacturers. So to have it in our own backyard we think is a real benefit, and we want to certainly grow and support the medical market here with that, and that's going to allow us to invest more into the business, more into new products, and I think that's probably our next stage of growth. That is going to be driven by what we can generate, the revenue we can generate there, and invest that back into R&D.
Absolutely. So now that you've had time to settle things down a bit, what have been the key learnings for you as a CEO?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because I think the easiest answer is everything. Like I went from effectively not knowing anything. I was there because I was the son of the owner, and look, I'd love to say that he saw something in me, but I think it was just the easiest option for him. But then I got this 5 years where it was just chaos, and I just had to find a way. So, and I think there's some things that sort of stand out through that time. And one was probably the professionalism that I needed to bring in. And we had we'll have an opportunity everywhere, and we'd made the decision to only work with our current customers. And we had an opportunity that, for someone that we knew, they were a customer, but they're a much bigger business. And the opportunity we had to bring in a lot of stock, and we had to tie up a bit of capital in that. So anyway, we worked through that, and we got a deposit, and that was all looking good. And then it started to get a bit shaky with, like everything did during COVID, and we committed a lot to the stock to come in terms of like packaging components, raw materials, and everything like that. And they just pulled the pin one day, and I can remember it. It was a Friday, and they pulled the pin and said, "We're out. We need the deposit back, or we're taking you to court." And I was like, "Oh, this isn't something I thought I was going to have to deal with." And I can remember I'd never felt like that before. That the stress and the panic, because during COVID I had no funding in place, and you were very aware of that. I'd worked with you a lot on how we can work through that. But I'd borrowed as much as I could against my house. My mum would put some money in, sister would put some money in, dad would put some money in to try and ramp this up. And I remember coming home thinking, I think I might have stuffed this up. Like, this is, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. And I can remember jumping on the trampoline with my daughter, and I just was sitting there, and she started yelling at me, and I was like, "Oh," and she's, Dad, you're not listening to me." And I was nowhere. And she was saying, "There's a dragonfly here." And anyway, there was a dragonfly stuck in the trampoline, and we worked together, and we set it free. And she fell back, and we lay down, and so you're a bit emotional. But we watched the dragonfly, and I had this moment where I realised that, like, the work is critical, and we need to find a way through that. But at the end of the day, if things don't go to plan, we can still be happy. And I think just having that ability to know that early on through COVID, to say, well, I need to have a crack at this, and I need to work through this, but I'm still pretty lucky, and things are going to be all right, was something that I think allowed me to make decisions going forward. Whereas I think I'd got into a bit of a position where there was so much happening and so much noise and so much stress that it was really hard to make any decision, because any decision could be so detrimental. But so probably to know that, I think it stuck with me a lot, to just say, well, you know what, you just need to make decisions. Like they're not life and death decisions. They're critical decisions, but you need to make them. So I think there's a lot of technical learnings that I learned through that. But just to sit here now and go, well, you know what, you just need to make a decision. You need to make it work. And the fallback is not the end of the world, but something that I feel grateful that I had, and grateful that I learned quite early in that piece. And that certainly allowed me to work through that a little bit better, and probably separate myself a little bit from the work to the car ride home, and then go, right, I'm home now. I need to have a bit of time where I can relax and enjoy myself. So that was probably the biggest growth for me, I think, coming out of it. And then I think in terms of the learnings, I just think that you just need to trust the people. And I think that's what the people can do, pretty amazing things. And if you get the right people and you give them an opportunity and let them show what they can do, people can do pretty amazing things. And we, as I said, our staff have gone from strength to strength through that. And it's been, we wouldn't be able to do what we've done without what they had done through that period as well. And as mentioned before, knowing the finances was something that I think knowing what you need to do if you grow, and what you need to do if things go south, and having a bit of a plan for that is something that, is just critical.
Yeah, look, that's incredibly insightful, Tom. When I reflect on that, you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. The just make the decisions. You can only make the decisions with the information that you've got at the time. We can spend a lot of time second guessing whether they're the right decisions or not, but we can only make the decisions based on what we know at the time and what we perceive is going to happen. When I was at secondary school in Army Cadets, I remember that was actually one of the things that came out of the Australian Army training that came to us, was that, don't worry about making decisions, worry about not making decisions. The Army doesn't want someone who can make one decision every month and be 100% right when they actually have to be able to make 10 decisions a day, and we're happy to accept that 5 of them will be wrong. I'm sure that I've paraphrased that badly, but it really does get to the point of you just have to make the damn decisions, and no one else is going to make them for it, and they won't be perfect all the time. So you can only do your best. The second thing that you highlighted there was actually, trusting your people is really about how do you empower them? How do you give them the confidence that you're going to back them and that all you're expecting them to do is to do their best? And then, of course, the other thing that you also highlighted, which was just something that was really rammed home to us throughout the COVID years, but is actually just basic and essential good business, and that is know your finance, know your numbers. If you don't understand your numbers, expect to go bankrupt. I know that that sounds harsh, but the simple reality is you have to know your numbers. You have to look into them. You have to understand, where that revenue is coming from, where that cost is going, what the impact is going to be on your cash flow, and how do you actually preserve and manage your cash flow with every decision, whether it be a sales decision, a marketing decision, a manufacturing decision, a service delivery decision, or a people decision. Everybody has an impact and a role on managing their cash flow.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we can't step away from understanding our finances.
Yeah. And I think, look, I get the decision-making part, I think is, you highlighted it so well. And I think that the second part of the story, I guess, for me is what my previous life, I was trying to play professional sport and trying to play cricket. And as a batsman, if you make a bad decision and chase a wide one and nick it, you're out and it's done. Whereas in business, you can make a decision and it can be right, but things can go against you and you've got to find a solution to that. And we had a whole lot of stock sitting there and we did not have enough. We couldn't afford it, and we're sitting there working through it, and we had nowhere to put it at that stage because not nowhere to put it, no use for it. But we had fortunately got a call a few months earlier from a big supermarket chain, and so we ended up turning that disaster into an ability to supply them because we had a lot of material that we needed to move. So we ended up supplying them. And we've had a contract with them now for the last 4 years, and certainly what we've been able to generate through that has helped fund the growth going forward, open up another arm of our business working with a supermarket, and it's funny how if you don't kick cans if a decision goes south, and if you find there's another solution to it, it's just another opportunity to make a decision, another opportunity to make something happen, and if you keep moving forward through that. Funny things happen, and that's been an amazing contract for us, an amazing learning experience.
Mm. And so, just reflecting on these last 5 years, what have you learned about yourself?
I think I'm probably fortunately able to be quite honest with myself and really focus on my deficiencies and not try and hide from them and then be able to remedy them or find a solution. And I think that is something that I've seen through the last 5-10 years, I guess. We've had people come in and people who are honest with themselves can do amazing things. They're not trying to hide the facts, and they're just going to find out where they're not efficient areas and address it. So I think that's something that is really important to me that we can keep focusing on that and be honest with that. But I now guess through some of the things you mentioned before, and I think I've fortunately built in a bit of a resilience to manage the stressful times, I think, and that's been through making mistakes and putting myself in stressful times and then having to find a way through it. So I think it's been an interesting experience, but I certainly feel much more able to take on the challenges going forward. I think my guess would be, had COVID not happened, if we were sitting here, I don't think I would feel like I have the ability to grow a business or to manage bigger challenges. But I think the fact that I had no choice through that, you probably learn a lot about yourself in those challenging times. So certainly the need to get out of my comfort zone and put myself in that and find a way out is something the way I learn best, I think, as well.
I mean, I know diddly squat about sport, but I'm sort of wondering whether or not your cricket career also has helped you in this journey, in that whatever was thrown at you, you still stepped up to the crease.
Yeah, I think it has it, and I've probably reflected on that a lot, given that I would view my career as a bit of a failure, and I'm not. I used to be upset about that, but I'm certainly not now. I've learned a lot from it, but I certainly had a crack at it and see how far I could go, but didn't make it, and that is what it is. But I think what I learned there was just the need to back yourself in and do it your own way. And I think a lot of times through a career, you're told this is an opportunity for you. This is how you need to do it by a coach or someone like that. And so you just blindly do it. Well, I did anyway. Blindly do that and try and do what a path that they've set out for you as opposed to finding your own path. And I think certainly what I learned through my cricket was that you need to back yourself in the way you want to do it. And you need to do what's meaningful to you and walk your walk, not someone else's. And I think that certainly made a difference in my business career, I think, because like I had no idea what I was doing when I started, but I guess there was in the back of my mind, I knew that, well, if you just do what someone else does or float along, you're definitely going to fail. So you need to try and find a path forward and you need to make decisions and you need to move forward and you need to back yourself in. And whether you're 1% confident or 99% confident, you need to make a decision, you need to act on it. And take responsibility for it. So I think, I think it's certainly played a part.
If you really want to kick off your strategic planning and work in a supportive environment with other CEOs and leaders, the CEO Masterclass in Strategic Planning and Implementation is for you. This 10-month small group course helps you craft your strategic plan, present it to a group of peer investors, and develop a habit of monthly implementation. Our waitlist is open now at CriticalFewActions.com.au. So you were involved in the masterclass throughout this period. How did you find that?
Oh, it saved my life, I think. Like I said, it was 3 months in and we were working through our critical few and we were trying to understand our finances and mine got blown out of the water in about 2 weeks after COVID hit. So I think for me, what it was to have a mentor there and have someone that you could lean on for decisions. And I'd probably hadn't built that enough before that. I was also really fortunate, probably 3 or 4 years before COVID, we were in the entrepreneurs program, I think it was called, through the government. And our facilitator was Mike Sewell. And he has been with us through the whole period as well. And he has been an amazing sounding board. And to have you to be able to speak to and Mike to bounce ideas off to people that had enormous experience, had done it before, and had the knowledge that I didn't have. It was almost just like it was almost like having another employee that I could lean on and work through. And so I think the masterclass allowed me to, like, I guess, think through in a more structured way about the business and understand, well, what are the actual drivers of this business? Like what's happened in the past is the past, but that's not how we're going to grow the business. And because I had no experience before of growing a business or being in any other business, all I knew of growing a business was what I'd read in a book or what you'd make assumptions for. So certainly I think the mentorship of yourself and Mike through that period was critical to be able to help make decisions, because I had nothing to base it on. And I think certainly the masterclass and having a real structure around how to grow a business and what are the drivers and what are the critical few actions you need to work on allowed me to focus on things, because at that stage there was 180 things I could have done, but I needed to work out, well, what are the 2 or 3 things that are going to have the most impact? So that certainly made a big difference.
Yeah, well, certainly you had more than 180 things to focus on at the time. As they were adding to themselves or multiplying like rabbits every other day. At least every Sunday night at 7 o'clock when the ABC News told us what the new regime was going to be like next week.
Yeah, well, that was a problem. I'd focus on my 3, get them done and look up, and there'd be 6 more waiting for me. So it was, a bit painful.
Yeah. And as part of that, and I think recently you used the organisation performance and value diagnostic. How did you find that?
Yeah, that was really helpful again. And I think certainly for me, and I would say someone who is fairly experienced in what I'm doing, to be able to get out of my own little bubble and have a structured process to work through and ask more poignant questions of the business and of myself, rather than me just broadly thinking what the challenges are, which is then impacted by what's happened the day before or what's coming up or what mood I'm in. To be able to have a better, I guess, an independent framework to work through and ask more poignant questions about the business and about where you need attention and what's going well and what's not going so well was certainly really helpful.
Good. Are you looking to pinpoint the areas that will make the biggest impact on your business? Check out the Organisation Performance and Value Diagnostic. This powerful tool lets you evaluate your business on multiple facets and provides email reminders to keep you on track. head over to criticalfewactions.com.au and get started now. So, Tom, what were the game changers that really changed your business for the better now?
Yeah, I think, and again, it's been talked about a lot, but I think having staff that now know our business intricately, that are really knowledgeable, that are incredibly resilient and good people, but have that experience now has made all the difference. I think one of the challenges of growing a small business is when it's small, if you're not there, nothing happens. Whereas now, I feel I can go on holidays and I'm off to Canada in a couple of weeks, and I can actually look forward to that as opposed to dreading how I'm going to work now outside hours and those sort of things.
Yeah.
But so I think that to get to the size that meant we could have more staff that are really knowledgeable has made a big difference. I think getting an understanding of the financing and actually knowing what drives that as well, as opposed to just saying, well, I need to sell more. That's a very mature way of looking at the manufacturing business. So certainly understanding those drivers has helped a lot. And I think also having a bit of more of a framework, and I think the masterclass and these sort of things have certainly allowed me to have a bit more of a framework and a structure of how we work. And I think that as we've grown, it's so less reactive and it's much more, we just need to be proactive and more planning. So having some more tools to do that, and having a focus on that, and having some time freed up to focus on the proactive side of it as opposed to the reactive side of it has made a big difference.
Yeah. And I guess, Tom, thank you for sharing that story about you and your daughter on the trampoline and the dragonfly. If you were now going back in time and talking to your younger self, just stepping up to the CEO role, what advice would you give younger Tom?
The first thing would be just to back yourself, just to trust that you're going to make a decision and you're going to find a way to make it work. I think imposter syndrome is very real, and I can vividly remember thinking that I'm not up to I'm not up to this. Like, these challenges are insane. But I think at the end of the day, you know your business better than anyone else, and I think, like we touched on before, and you mentioned, any decision is better than no decision because you're moving forward and you can find something, you learn something for it. So I think it was forced upon me through COVID, but the knowledge of knowing that, well, if you do make a mistake, you can fix it and you can address it, but you've got to be moving forward is the biggest thing. And as soon as you sit still, or as soon as you think you're on top of things, or as soon as you think you've got nothing to do, that's generally when something's around the corner. So I think just that, keep moving forward and keep finding a way to improve things. And I think that is really important. And then the other thing would be just to get some support around you and get some advisors and get some people in that can help that walk where you want to go as well. I think that being able to lean on people is critical. And I still absolutely think you need to make your own decisions and you need to make sure you're happy with that and you don't want to blindly follow anyone. But having lots of different viewpoints, if you're strong enough to make a decision on that, it makes a huge difference.
And finally, Tom, if a CEO is looking to develop their business based on your experiences, what critical few actions should they start tomorrow if they did nothing else?
Yeah, well, I think, and it is sort of funny now thinking about it, but having a finance model and making sure that you're really clear on how you're going to make money and how you're going to sustain a business, I think that's non-negotiable. It just needs to be there. And I think building the right team around you, and we talk about the right people on the bus. And for me, everyone talks a lot about talent. We need talent, and I accept that. But having good people that you can trust and that trust you I think it trumps talent tenfold. Because people can learn, people can adapt, people can be resilient and work through things. And if you've got that trust, it allows you to delegate and it allows you to be able to do that and focus on other things, because you can't do it all yourself. You're not going to know everything. You need people that have knowledge that you don't. So I think that is really important as well.
Yeah, which always reminds me of hire for attitude, not just skill. Tom, this has been an absolutely terrific discussion. Thank you so much for your time.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Critical Few Actions podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and grab the downloadables from the show notes. And if you found this episode helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you share it with your peers and your team. Stay focused and take action. The Critical Few Actions podcast, including show notes and links, provides general information only and is not individualised business advice, nor can it be relied upon as such. You must take responsibility for your own advice, decisions and actions.